tell me about Cutthroat City, and how would you describe it if you were to summarize it?
Cutthroat City follows these four boys who decide to have a heist and start robbing casinos because in 2005, after Hurricane Katrina, the Ninth Ward was completely neglected. And they make a decision to rob FEMA and really, try and take their power back. I play Demira, who is the wife of the lead. And it's really, it feels so present to what's happening right now in terms of the neglect that often we feel in the Black community, where, you see like 90% of New Orleans has recovered since Hurricane Katrina, but only around 30% of the Ninth Ward, like 37% of the Ninth Ward has been able to actually rebuild. So you see a lot of that, a lot of the parallels with what's happening, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement. We're seeing and we're being brought to an awareness that that this kind of turning a blind eye, or the disregard of the African American experience, and what can happen if it's no longer going to be disregarded. So it's really an interesting movie, and I love it, and I loved working with some of my favorite actors I've ever loved, let alone getting to work with them. So I was really, really excited. And RZA from WuTang Clan, which for me is a whole nother level.
And talk to me about being directed by RZA.
He's kind of like this, he's like this like silent ninja. He's also the only other vegan on the set. So he would bring me vegan food and make sure that I, ate, because New Orleans is real tricky to be a vegan. So a lot of directors, at least that I've worked with, sometimes like over direct actors. They're like, okay, do it like this. And then he just vibes, because he's also a music producer and artist. He's all about the vibe. So if something didn't quite feel right, or was really kind of taking on a vibe of its own, he just really kind of went with it. He's probably one of the coolest and most connected directors I've ever worked with, for sure.
That's fantastic. And you did mention that you were both the only vegans on set.
I believe, yeah.
What are some other behind the scenes moments that, you were, I guess, that really were your favorite parts, I guess, from behind the scenes working on this film, especially with working with T.I. and, other big names such as yourself? You
mentioned T.I. So I've known Tip since I was like 17, 18, like in like my backup dancer days. He's always been one of my favorite people. When I was like a kid, he had sat me down, and I don't even know why we were having this conversation, and this has always stayed with me, and he probably doesn't even remember telling me this. But he said, it's better to be a boss in a small pond than work for somebody else in an ocean. And that like stayed with me forever. And at the time he was fully doing his label thing. I'm sure he's still doing it, but at the time his like camp was around. It was like a full situation. That was actually the first time I had met a Black man who really was, and I could actually see them building out their company, even just in a brief moment on set. So I thought that was really cool. What other anecdotes? So I met, a really fun thing, and a lot of people don't know this, but I'm a retired backup dancer, but I will still battle. And Shamik, who is my husband and baby daddy in the movie, he is also an incredible dancer. So anytime we'd have to be on press tour or on set, we would just start battling each other just savagely. So that's really cool. And then I remember Wesley Snipes got in on it when we did Comic-Con, because Missy Elliott started playing, and it was just like, and then Wesley can move. I mean, he can dance his ass off. So that was really cool. That was really, really cool. But my favorite part of shooting was we actually shot in the Ninth Ward,
That's fantastic.
which was great and difficult. And it really puts you in the center of everything. And you realize that that a huge majority of the Ninth Ward still doesn't have electricity, still doesn't have, running water.
Personally, so my family is from New Orleans, and I visit there multiple times. And so I totally understand that they're still light years away from where they should be. How do you think that this movie or the backdrop of Katrina, as well as Black Lives Matter today, really sends a message to viewers? I guess what message do you think both that backdrop and the fact that we are still figuring out these social issues in this country, what do you think that communicates to the world, and how can we kind of get back up from that?
One of the best ways that people can make a difference is just by raising their awareness. Once you raise your awareness of what has actually been happening in certain Black communities, certain industries, politics, law enforcement, lawmakers, leadership, and you actually educate yourself, you'll want to make a difference. You'll want to tweet about it. You'll want to protest. You'll want to make phone calls. You'll want to take action. But if you aren't aware of Brianna, if you're not aware of George, if you're not aware of Elijah, then you don't think that there's anything that needs to change because everything is fine. Once things are brought to your awareness, then I truly feel that you'll want to make a difference. I really believe that people will want to make a difference. A lot of people aren't aware of the Ninth Ward. They're aware of Hurricane Katrina and the devastation, and it killed almost 2,000 people, and it was like 108 billions of dollars of damage. But they're not aware that there's such a high level of neglect of this specific ward. What's great about this movie is that part of the proceeds are going to go to Lower 9, lower9.org. I posted about it. So it's for long-term re-establishment of the neighborhood and of the businesses, and they need it. They need support. But it's about awareness and then taking action and really having the right kind of leadership, not necessarily government leadership, but there's so many incredible people, even on Instagram, people that I've even discovered recently that really can help navigate you through this journey of this. I don't know when you're airing this, but yesterday was the anniversary of Emmett Till's death.
Yep.
And it's really remarkable that we're still having these conversations in 2020, which means that history on some level is repeating itself, which means that we obviously have to take a look at what we are doing and what we need to change, but it's also important to have allies and the right people in power, which is why voting is so important. I actually think that's the reason I stayed in Atlanta, because I'm from LA.
Right.
I'm not from Atlanta. I was here to shoot Vampire Diaries back in 2009. The show's been over for almost 3 years.
Yep.
But I dealt with a lot of racism while I was on the show, online, offline, in the streets. And once I realized what living in Georgia was like, I was like, oh, I'm not leaving. Something has changed. So, we've got some really incredible leaders out here, and a really incredible history of great leadership out here. So it's been really great for me to keep perspective being out here in Georgia.
It's incredible that strength that you have to stay in Atlanta, especially, when you're flooded with social issues that I think the world has to deal with, but you're like, no, I'm going to be here full time and just face it and do what I have to do. I guess with your background, especially, I remember you specifically from Vampire Diaries. Yes, I watched. Yes, Bonnie. Hey, what's up? And I know,
Black girl, huh?
well, no, yeah, of course. What made you sign on to this particular film? I know you probably get scripts daily, and you're like, oh, I don't know. What about this one did it for you?
You're right. I got sent some things that I would have done just for a paycheck. Um, I started realizing that like people were actually paying attention to me in a different way,
Hmm,
that I had all of a sudden, and I never experienced racism until actually I was on the show. I mean, I grew up, my mom's white. I grew up white household. I was like the only black girl in school, but no, I didn't even, like, I never experienced racism.
interesting.
Once I was on this show, I was all of a sudden put in this position to be like a voice. And I was like, okay, a stripper. Um, let me make conscious decisions about what kind of stories I want to tell and who I want to tell them for. I'm already weird enough. I might as well go left and really focus on, especially as a Black woman, our stories don't get told, even with the same level of support that even an African American male stories get told. They get a lot of the biopics and, a lot of leads, but Black females do not get that kind of um, necessary all the projects. Viola Davis speaks on this way more accurately than I can. But it's incredibly difficult to be a successful Black actress. There are only a handful of successful Black actresses that are under the age of 40. So there's very few rules. I decided that everything that I was going to put my energy on was going to be to elevate Black women and untold Black female stories, because I want them to get attention. If I'm getting attention, then what am I putting my attention towards for the public? What am I shifting their energy towards? What am I refocusing them on? It's cool to play pretty characters, and that's great and all. But I think that if I can shift the Hollywood dynamic a bit and really focus on telling stories that are not getting told or might not get the same publicity that another story would, then that really needed to be my mission after leaving that show. So everything that I did um, has been to highlight those women and those characters and those stories, to help to elevate it, to elevate the Black experience. I've been really trying to do that.
That's fantastic, and I think everyone will be excited to see this film.
This film is sick. This film is like honestly one of the sickest films I have ever done. So I'm really excited for people to see this.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I think also as you continue on with, more roles that you do, especially with that mission. Hey, I'm a viewer. I'm looking forward to watching the next one. I'll take a back seat. Let's do it.
Now take the front seat, and I also think like, you as, who you are, you have a voice. And I think, you speaking out even online, calling out producers, directors, writers, people that are developing, telling them, we want to see more of our stories told, you know we want to show that we're three-dimensional, that we don't just look a certain way, talk a certain way, dress a certain way, that we are all of these things. So I think, it's not, I don't even want you to take a back seat. I'm actually in the back seat here. I'm actually the one kind of watching what is happening. And then I'm like, okay, let me take that and let me go out with that information. So I'm actually in the back seat and you're driving. That's what's so wild about this whole thing.
It's incredible. I'll take the car. I'll drive it. I'll take
Come on,
that.
girl. You got it.
I got it. Well, thank you so much, Kat, for speaking with the Nocturnal today. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And again, so excited for the world to see this new film. It's off the chain.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ariel.